Welcome to Unity of Tacoma. We are an online community with a physical presence in Tacoma, Washington. You can find out about all of our programs on unity253.com. Don't miss our 11 o'clock Sunday Rumble, our live chat in Zoom. We hope you'll join us there. Today is Palm Sunday. I want to start by telling you a story about my children. So my husband and I bought this large house last June with the idea that we would just create a multi-generational household that would allow my adult children and one of my grandchildren to live with us. And it's been a really neat experience. We're all of us introverts, so we can go weeks without seeing each other. But because of the stay at home order issued by Governor Inslee, I'm working from home for both of my jobs, for Unity of Tacoma and for my other job at the insurance company. And I'm home all day. It's pretty cool to take my breaks and to be able to run downstairs and walk to the coffee shop with my daughter. I've really enjoyed spending that time with her. And today I was standing at the top of the stairs on the third floor where my office is now. And I was talking to my daughter, and she was at the bottom of the stairs. So we were being kind of loud. And we were talking about how people change over time, and you can kind of predict what some of those changes are going to be. I was telling her about the first time that I noticed that I had what I call an old lady thought. I had caught my mom one time saying something like, "Oh, why did they change Facebook? I finally learned how to use it, and they went and they changed it again, and I give up." And I remember looking at her and saying, "That is an old lady thought." And oh, she was terribly offended, terribly offended. And this was several years ago. Now I've discovered that I have old lady thoughts sometimes. And I was sharing with my children how every once in a while I'll notice that something has changed. Perhaps there's a new release of Microsoft Office or Windows. Recently, I had to get a brand new cell phone. And also, I had to get a second cell phone because I'm working from home. And that's an iPhone. And I've never worked with iOS. So it's interesting to watch my thought processes and realize that I actually have changed how I approach change. And I'm glad that I'm aware and that I can listen to my thoughts. I'm very self reflective in that regard. I catch myself a lot of times having these old lady thoughts, and it's helped me to be mindful about choosing to embrace change because everything changes. You might think that that's an odd topic for Palm Sunday, but give it some thought. On Palm Sunday, Jesus walked into Jerusalem, and it was a triumphal entry with people tossing palm leaves before his feet. And you all know what happened over the course of what we call Holy Week. Things changed. It went from Jesus as the hero to Jesus as the criminal very quickly. Even one of his most beloved disciples, Peter, ended up denying him as he said he would. So, if you think that this is an odd topic for Palm Sunday, apropos to the time, I don't mean to talk about the coronavirus in every single one of my talks, but you know, these talks and all of the media that's being put out there right now is creating a record. It's creating a record of a time that's going to be written about in history books. This pandemic has changed how we do everything. It's not just about me bringing my computer peripherals home and setting them up, and it's not just about getting to spend more time with my kids. I'm pretty sheltered right now. What I realize is that that would not have always been the case. I know I've shared my story of how I've gone from a lack consciousness to more of an abundance consciousness. And I'm really glad right now that I did that work. I also, if something like this had happened even 10 years ago, it would have been a very different story for me. I feel truly blessed in what I'm doing right now, that I'm supported. My employer's been just, but not everybody is as blessed. I went to the coffee shop with my daughter about 4 days ago, and there was a man in a ragged coat, and he was trying to talk to us from across the street. He was shouting across the street. And, anytime anybody asks me for food, I always say yes. And so I figured he was probably asking for money or for food. And so I hollered at him since the coffee shop's the only place open. It's a walk up coffee shop. You don't have to go in. So I asked him, I said, "Hey, would you like a coffee? I'll buy you a coffee." He came over and he wanted a different drink, so I bought him that drink. And I saw the baristas were really jumpy, and they were very specific that that man couldn't approach their coffee stand. Although my daughter and I were able to approach to the 6 foot line, and she said that the police had come through and explained that at the shelters there's a 75% positive rate for COVID 19. And at that point in time, I was kind of stuck because I'd already agreed to buy this gentleman a drink, and they had made it. And I was trying to figure out how to hand it to him. It was very awkward, and our hands brushed. And I just remember thinking in my head, it's like, my goodness, I feel like I can't even do something kind for someone at this point in time. It's a different way. I look back on it and I realize what I needed to do was to set the drink down somewhere and then let him pick it up from that place in order to maintain the distance. But right in the moment, I hadn't processed all of the change that was going on around me. I hadn't figured out how to be I wanted to be in that moment and do it safely. Everything changes. Several years ago, I had the privilege of spending 10 days in silent meditation in Olalla, Washington. It was some of the hardest work I've ever done. You wouldn't think so. All I did was eat and rest and meditate, and that was pretty much it. But I noticed after the first day that several people were missing. And then I noticed after the second day that a few more people were missing. And after that, there wasn't quite as much attrition. But I just remember thinking that I wanted to leave. It was so difficult. For me, a lot of it was just painful. I couldn't figure how to sit comfortably for so long. Painful. I couldn't figure how to sit comfortably for so long in meditation. But I'm glad I stayed. And I remember after the retreat, when we were allowed to talk again, how everyone had the same story because they were all new to meditation. The group I was with, we were all the noobs, hadn't done that intense of a practice before. And all of them said the same thing. I just wanted to leave. I couldn't, I couldn't do this, or I couldn't think that. And I'd look around me and everyone was so still and quiet. And I thought, everyone's good at this except me. And we all said, no, I thought everyone's good at this except me. So we all agreed that we had thought that we were failing at what we were doing because around us it looked like people were succeeding. And the truth is, we were all having a very similar experience. One of the techniques that they give the students to get through that time, and it's part of the regular practice, is a word. And the word is anicca. I've seen it spelled Anicca. If you want to look it up, it's part of the Vipassana meditation practice, and it's about change, that everything changes. You have an itch on your cheek, well, just sit tight, it'll go away, because everything changes. If your back hurts, well, just hang on, you're going to get stronger, eventually your back won't hurt. Everything changes. I found this on the internet on a Vipassana site. It says, all things are impermanent. When one observes this with insight, then one becomes detached from suffering. This is the path of purification. And I thought that that was really interesting. I don't mean to say that everything changes and you have no control. However, I think that we all can step into a place of empowerment, just like me with that gentleman and wanting to do a kindness for him. I can still do a kindness for someone, but I may have to do it in a new way. It's just a matter of discovering where I'm empowered to be the person that I want to be in the world. So, the practice that I'm doing right now is my Vipassana meditation. And the Vipassana meditation is actually pretty simple. It's the focusing on the breath, the breathing in, the breathing out, and it's a body scan. And as simple as that sounds, even after 10 days of working with a master teacher on it, I still feel like I have an awful lot to learn. But what that gives to me is it also gives me a practice where I let go of thoughts that don't serve me. Because as I'm sitting in my meditation, thoughts are constantly coming into my head, my to do list, or an interaction that I had, or I write book reviews on the side, and I got docked points and told that I was mean. I know, Carlton Lewis, I know you're watching this. Remember, I told you that I can be snarky. Well, apparently it slipped out. And so I feel bad. I feel bad because I lost points, but I also feel bad because I wasn't my highest self in that moment. And that's something that I often will just kind of ruminate on and give some consideration to, because I want to be a better person every day. I want to be a better person. And every time I fall down, I get right back up again and I claim my power. I am responsible for myself and my choices. It's not difficult to step forward and realize what you have power over, even when it feels like there's so much that you don't have power over. We've recently been told that we're going to remain in this self isolation through May 4th. That's a considerable extension of what we planned on it being. Now, Unity of Tacoma's in person service, we had already canceled through May 24th. We were planning to come back on May 26th, and now, or pardon me, April 26th. And now we're planning on coming back on May 10th. And the truth is, we can't promise that. We can't promise that. It would be irresponsible to promise that because everything changes all the time. And I have no control over what the expectation is going to be. One of the things that I look at to try and get a glimpse of what might be in our future is what's happening in Italy. It can be really empowering to look at the lessons of those who have gone before you, whether it's the wisdom of Jesus or simply what's going on around you a little more recently. And what I know from watching what's going on in Italy is that it's very likely this is going to be extended again. The lack of compliance from everybody, because everyone has to be compliant in this in order for it to work, and there isn't a compliance from everybody, is going to mean that we're going to have to be self isolating a little bit longer. And I'm on board for that. I'm available for that, and I hope that you are too. I hope that as things change and as we receive new information about what's happening with the virus and with all of the steps being put into place to make everybody safe and healthy, that you can look at that and just realize, hey, everything changes way, and you don't have to let go of being who you are, just as like I don't have to let go of whenever someone asks me for food, I always buy them food or give them food. That's just always been something that was important to me. I don't give money out to the transients that I meet on the streets, but anybody who will ask me for food, I will buy them food. And what I realize is that I can continue to do that, especially right there at that particular street corner. What I've come to learn is that is a place where homeless people come and congregate when they're outside of the shelter. That's some place that they come together. I think that's why there's been such a high police presence there, is because they're trying to enforce the 6 foot rule. And so everything's changing for those people as well. Their sense of community is being disrupted. These people who have nothing are having their social habits taken away from them too. And it may be more important to that population than it is to you and me, because we have so many options. We have the internet available to us. We have this technology available to us. And so we can step into our power and claim that which is ours to do in this moment, that which we are empowered to do, and not to go to a negative place of, well, everything's changed and so I've lost everything that came before, because that's just not true. You have not lost who you are at your core as a deeply spiritual person. And so the invitation there is simply to do some self inquiry, to go within, whether it's Vipassana or something else. Vipassana is a very disciplined practice, but there are other things that you can do, such as guided meditations or even self hypnosis, that can help awaken you to what is yours to do. Never forget that you are spirit in expression. There's an often quoted saying that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And everything that's going on around us with this global health crisis, that's just part of the human experience. That's changed what it's like for us to be a human on this planet in this time. It doesn't change the core and the essence of who we are. And so, if it is your practice to spend time with people, God bless you. That is not my practice. I'm one of those introverts that loves that meme that says, a lockdown. I've been preparing for this my whole life. I'm very comfortable with technology. I'm very comfortable with connecting with people over the internet or via text. That may not be true for you. So step into your power. If communing with people is something that's important to you, find a way to do it. Find a way to do it. Be in connection with other people. I've seen a lot of my extroverted friends have issued me invitations for things like virtual high tea, where we're invited to get our fancy teacups and dress up, put on makeup and do our hair, and then to meet online and drink tea and speak together and just be in a casual atmosphere, just having a nice time with other people. And as much as that appeals to me, I also need my time to rest. So, anybody who's given me one of those invitations, I hope you'll keep inviting me. One of these times I'm going to make it. But I know that that's important to some people. So, if you're not being invited to these things, you need to start inviting other people. Step into your power, claim your essential self, and remember that you are a spiritual being. That means that you are an individualized manifestation of God, and you are expressing always as peace and power and poise and joy and light and life and love. There are all of these God qualities that are always expressing in, through, and as you, and you can tap into them and claim them at any time, regardless of what might be going on in the earthly realm. You have to simply use your discernment. And that's, I think, where the spiritual practice comes in. If you're a meditator, just keep leaning into that. And if you've never experimented with meditation, now might be a good time to do that, especially if you're one of those extroverted souls that loves to constantly be busy and talking to other people. I'm very happy right now because I love technology, and I've actually had several deliveries in a row of new technology. My old Android died, so I got a new Android phone. And then the next day, my office sent me my iPhone. And then the next day, I got my brand new Fitbit. And I noticed on my Fitbit that there was this little heart, and all it said next to it was breathe. And so I tapped it to see what it would do. And it actually guides you through breathing in and breathing out. It's a meditation practice right there on my Fitbit. The modern world has come to understand how very important these practices are. So I would encourage you to take on a spiritual practice of meditation, guided meditation, silent meditation, it doesn't matter. Just play some music. And when the thoughts come into your head and you know it's not time for you to think about them, develop that practice of letting go of them. It's really interesting when you build that muscle. What I notice for myself is that when I'm talking to someone and maybe they push one of my buttons, I'm always trying to be a better person, but I have triggers. I definitely do. And maybe somebody triggers something in me, and I know that that is not my highest self. I have been practicing letting go of what does not serve. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That doesn't mean I didn't have that thought. That doesn't mean that that thought isn't pointing to some deeper belief that I need to address. But that practice is helping me not be a mean girl to the person in front of me. And I hope that every day I become a better and better person. And I know that meditation is a huge part of growing myself in that way. So, whether you're taking on something disciplined like Vipassana, or simply playing music, or using your fitness device to just take a few minutes to breathe in or breathe out, use that time. Use that time to do your spiritual practice because it's important. You will develop discernment, and discernment is something that will serve you regardless of what your other philosophical beliefs might be. It will serve you in on your spiritual path. It will serve you in your relationships to others. It will serve you in your work life. Developing discernment comes from self awareness. Self awareness arises through getting to know who you truly are, and you will get to know who you truly are when you begin a meditation practice and realize the thoughts that rise up for you. So, this week, I invite you. Try a meditation practice if you haven't been. And if you have been, recommit to it and really embrace that this is something that cannot be taken away from you. This is something that nobody can change for you. This is your personal choice. You are empowered to continue with this spiritual practice that has served you and helps bring forth the best in you. And so I realize as I've been talking that we've actually kind of worked our way through the Serenity Prayer. And so I usually close my talks with an impromptu prayer, but I think today I would like to go ahead and close my talk with the prayer for serenity. I hope you'll join me if you know it. I think everybody does. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you for watching this video. I'm so glad that you chose to join us. There's so much more that's available. If you just want to check out our page, unity253.com, all of our on demand videos are available on YouTube on our channel, unity253.com. And I hope that you will take time to come and join us at 11 o'clock on Sundays for our Sunday Rumble. It's a private group in that it's not live streamed. We join together on Zoom and have a conversation. Sometimes it's about the talk on the previous Sunday, and sometimes it's just about spiritual practice or something that's come up for us during the week. Occasionally, we do talk about just what's going on at Unity of Tacoma and what you can expect. So, you are so welcome and invited to join us at Sunday Rumble at 11 o'clock. I do hope that I see you there. Thanks again.